to see what is happening in the power sector in the state. Now, before I go into you giving me a kind of summary of what we've done today, I would like to ask you first and foremost, before the advent of this administration, one, where were we in power supply? Where are we at the moment? And where are we headed?
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure to have had the opportunity to share with you what is going on in the power sector in Akwa Ibom State. First of all, let me give God the glory, because this is Akwa Ibom State, for what he has done for the people of this state by giving us a good leader, a visionary leader, a performing governor that has a vision for our people. And as far as power is concerned, his vision is very simple and very clear. He wants our people to have uninterrupted power supply in the shortest possible time. And also he wants all our villages and communities to be connected to the grid. And that's my starting point. I don't know how far back I need to go to in history. Our state, as you know, is only 25 years old by this October, by God's grace. And you know, generally, the power sector has been run by the federal government. But in spite of the federal government running a power sector in Akwa Ibom, the last two administrations have invested in power generation. But this administration has bring all that investment to fruition in two main areas. We have a power plant that is capable of producing 191. We've invested a lot of money into doing that, even though we are not producing at that capacity, but that's the installed capacity. This administration, by God's grace, have taken the state, my village, many villages, from not even knowing what a power transformer is to over 80% of the villages and communities now have power infrastructure, either distribution transformer that bring power to the people, or one kind of power presence or the other. Some even have solar-based borehole water. So there has been a lot done in the last 5 years of this administration, which I'm very proud of His Excellency and his leadership, and I'm very proud to be a part of it. I don't need to tell you that over the last 50 years, power has been a problem in Nigeria as a whole. And if you, as you are interested in the sector, you probably have read newspapers about how several plans were made. Sometimes the plans were inconsistent. Sometimes they want to put a power plant without thinking about the gas supply that will make that power plant, nor even how the power is going to be evacuated. But I can talk about what His Excellency is currently doing and what is happening in the state. I don't think there is any need to dwell in the past, because past is past, past is done.
Okay, fine. So where are we currently in terms of power distribution, since we have seen that there's a lot going on in terms of generation? So where are we in power distribution?
Well, like I said, His Excellency's vision and objective is to make sure there is uninterrupted power supply. For us to have uninterrupted power supply, in my mind, in my opinion, there are 5 key components. Those components, the first one, and perhaps the most important, is to have the fuel supply. You have to have a secured fuel supply that will make sure power is generated. And this administration have invested over $40 million US and has encouraged private sector to come in. Right now, as we speak, in Esideket, there is a gas processing plant that is being built through the help of this administration. That gas processing plant will now allow us to gather our gas and pipe it into the inland of the state. The pipeline is almost completed from Okwo in Esideket to Ikorabasi, where the generating plant is. Now, we've invested, like I said, in the power plant, but one of the big constraints or challenges they've articulated is there was no stable gas supply. So by the time this gas project, both the processing plant in Okwo and the pipeline is finished, that problem would have been resolved, thanks to His Excellency. On the generation side, like I've said, we've spent a lot of money to get 191 megawatt. Now, we still don't have uninterruptible power supply because transmission has been a problem. What we are currently doing at the state level, we are working with the federal government, Niger Delta Power Holding Company to be specific, to make sure those constraints that do not allow us to evacuate power are removed. One of them is the transmission line between Eket, Uyo, and Itu. As we speak, plans are in advanced stages to make sure that corridor is expanded. We're going to put new conductors that can take the capacity from 80 megawatt up to 160 megawatt, which is enough to evacuate a greater portion of what we are able to produce at Ibom Power. Now, that's the distribution. Coming to distribution, what the state government has done, like I've said in the past, we've invested significantly in rural electrification. So with all the transformers in rural electrification project that has been done, there should be a capability for people to receive power when it is properly generated and transmitted. Unfortunately, when we do all this investment and put in all these power plants, transformers, we don't have control over them. We have to hand them over to Power Holding Company of Nigeria, which was broken into 11 distribution companies. And the distribution company that serves us is Port Harcourt Electric Distribution Company. So what is the state government doing to improve distribution? We are trying to acquire that under the privatization of the federal government. The state government, our governor, and the other governors of the what I call BRAC states, Bayelsa, Rivers, Akwa Ibom, and Cross River, have come together and bring technical partners and core investors. And we are basically saying, let this thing be given to us. We can do a better job with our technical partner and with our core investors. And so once that is done, we are going to be able to have more control, make sure the right qualified people, the right equipment, the right systems are in place so that the power that we generate and is being transmitted can be distributed properly. So that's what we are doing. That's basically our strategy.
So in other words, from what you have identified now, that has been a major constraint, and you think very sincerely that once that is taken off, well, what are the exclusive list of the federal government, power is going to be relatively more stable here in the Akwa Ibom State.
I can speak for Akwa Ibom, yes. As a matter of fact, my mom is my best indicator. She calls me from time to time and says, Victor, there's improvement in power today. You know, so people can experience whenever Ibom Power is generating and the transmission is okay, the distribution network is okay, people are experiencing improved power supply. You know, it's not stable, it's not constant, it's not uninterrupted to all of our people, which is the governor's vision. And so with all the projects we are doing, if people do not go home at any time and turn on the switch and the power is there, we are not going to be satisfied. The governor is not going to be satisfied. The only way we can be so sure that that will happen is what His Excellency has said. Let the state have their distribution companies. And this is what is done in many other places. And perhaps this is part of the big fight about true federalism. In the US where I practice, you have so many different distribution companies. You know, and the distribution companies are, in most cases, privately owned. And so people are there to make sure their customers are happy, their customers are satisfied. Very similar to what you've seen in the telecommunication industry, whereby when we used to have only Nitel, the service sucked. The service was no good. It was anything you could call it. But once we introduced a private sector, MTN came in, Glo came in, Airtel came in, there was competition and the service improved. So His Excellency is saying if you allow states to have their own distribution companies, there will be some kind of competitive advantage and competition among the states. Who is going to do better? Who is going to serve their own people better? And we believe we are in a position to do that. If you look at what His Excellency have done in the road sector, if you look at what we've done in the healthcare sector, in the educational sector, there's no doubt in my mind that with that kind of focus and passion, we should be able to provide uninterruptible power supply to our people in the shortest possible time.
Now that brings me to a key point. Now, by God's grace, we hope this comes to fruition. Now, and if this happens, do you think the constant availability of electricity, power in the rural areas is going to curb what I like to call, urban migration?
Definitely, definitely. And I think that's why, our governor is the Obama of Nigeria, the Obama of Akwa Ibom State, if not more. Very strategic, great thinker. If you sit down with him and have conversation, you will know the kind of brain he has. That's why he's talking about 31 industries in each of the local government. Now, if we have stable power supply, we've already have good roads, and we have industry in each of this local government, and the industry have road to evacuate their product, have electricity to power their plant, why would people want to migrate? And come to think about it, Akwa Ibom is a very small place. Within 1 hour, you could reach anywhere in Akwa Ibom. So you will begin to see people staying even in their own villages with good roads and going to Yo, going to Eket, going to Ikorabasi, going to any part of the state. As long as there is road and there's electricity, and they can live in their houses. So electricity is a very key component of not only the industrialization, but a better quality of life, and also sustainable development of the state. So once we are able to solve this problem, you're going to see a minimization of rural to urban migration.
So on the last note, so what can be done to sustain all of this?
Well, the feed component of what I think needs to be done, I started by saying the fuel, and then I said generation itself, and then transmission and distribution, is the capacity, the human capacity, the intellectual capacity. What I've been here in my job for about 9 months now, and people are expecting me to do one big project or the other. They've not seen any. But the biggest thing is to have the right kind of processes, the right kind of people, the right kind of technology, the right kind of policies, the right kind of programs, the right kind of processes. Once we have all of this in place, which is what I did for over 20 years in the US, you will see that future generation will have something to build on. The thing will be institutionalized, and they can improve. There will be continuous improvement. So what is needed to sustain what we've started is a solid foundation, institutionalizing the right processes, making sure the right people are in place, making sure the right technology are in place, and you see these things sustain. To me, power sector making uninterruptible power supply is not rocket science. It's something that has been done. You know, I happen to work in the US, in Washington, D.C., where arguably is the capital of the free world. Do we have challenges where from time to time, if the weather is bad, we would have outages there and there? Sure, but the power is always there. People expect to have power. Right here in Nigeria, they call on NEPA and never expect power at all. We're going to change that in Akwa Ibom, you know, and we're going to prepare our people to be ready for that, to make sure they participate, because it's not something you just leave to one person. It's a community thing. In a situation where people will go and tamper with the transmission line and use the wires to make hangers and things like that, we're going to get away from that. There are some ideas and strategies we will use to make people feel part ownership. So when we put a transformer in the village, it is the village transformer. It's your property. It's bringing benefit to your place. Those kind of